Hello and welcome to Just Onside. It's been a couple of weeks. Things have been happening, but we're back shooting again. So, how are you, sir?
I'm very good, Ayub. Doing really well. Friday evening over here. I think Friday afternoon over there in the UK. Went to get a few more bits for the home, and it's finally all coming together. But yeah, very nicely done. Prayers all done. Very relaxed. Looking forward to the weekend. How about yourself, for you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. I had a half a day, so I've just been relaxing. The weather's absolutely awful. It's miserable. Uh, you can sort of tell that summer's well and truly over. Your place is looking pretty decent. It's looking nice. I like the look.
You
And
probably
you've got a
caught.
TV, which is for the viewers. For those who don't know Otis, I think up until recently he's never owned a TV, or at least he's not had a TV for a long, long time. Now he's gone into the Middle East and he's been corrupted. What's going on?
To be honest with you, it's interesting you say that. It was only recently when I think one of the Liverpool games, one of our first games here was Liverpool. I'm trying to think which game it was. Might have been Champions League. I'm not sure on the TV. And I said to my son, I mean, I'm 39 years of age, and I turned around to my son and I said, I think this is the first Liverpool match that you're watching because he's a Liverpool fan on a TV that your dad actually owns. I'm 39 years of age, so you're right. I didn't used to have a TV back in the UK, and I got by. But here in the Middle East, life is so hectic. Ayub. The only solace that you get is a little bit of weekend respite, a little bit of sports. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to have to invest in a nice TV. So yeah, it does make for a fun and enjoyable environment. I'll be giving Bournemouth Fulham a miss tonight. Don't you worry about that. But tomorrow evening, back to the football. So yeah, it is. You're right, absolutely right. But had to, needs must.
Right, okay, well, I think you must be pretty happy because I think after that result against Liverpool, I mean, it wasn't all doom and gloom, but obviously it sort of Liverpool fans were quite cock a hoop, thinking that it's a done deal. Obviously not, but things have changed over the weekend, and I've got to be honest. I mean, some of the Liverpool fans and the forums I've been reading, they're not quite happy with where things are going now. With Liverpool this season, they have won a majority of the games, but a lot of, I mean, I think two or three games, or at least two games, have been last minute winners, and I don't think they've played that well. I think the team that has played pretty well, even the game that they lost against Liverpool, I don't think they were that bad. I think it was just a case of maybe if Arteta had his chance again, he'd probably have a different approach. But the way that he looks at this moment in time, albeit Arsenal are 2 points behind, but I think in terms of who's feeling more confident, uh, it's got to be Arsenal, surely. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, look, a lot has changed in the last week or so. At least more in terms of just the narrative, isn't it, Ayub? Where ultimately Liverpool are still 2 points ahead. I still think it's a little early, 6 games in, I believe, to start talking as though these two are the only teams. Now, do I think they are the class of the league? I do, and I don't think you disagree with that. Um, but I think it's more just about the narrative because Liverpool obviously had a difficult result last Saturday, losing deservedly so, to be fair, to Palace, who played really well, doing incredibly well under this manager, FA Cup, and he's lost one of his best players in Eze. Yet Palace are still, I think they are the only unbeaten team in the Premier League right now. So, last minute winner in a game that they, as Van Dijk rightly mentioned after the game, they were lucky to get a draw anyway. So the fact that it was a last minute winner was probably par for the course, so to speak. And that's obviously given Arsenal some sort of fill up. Now, I imagine that you watched the game at St. James. It's probably, in some ways, one of the games of the season so far, not in terms of incredible goalmouth action, but very watchable. A lot of tension, a lot of drama. And in some ways, I think for Arsenal, I thought very much so a deserved victory. Yes, they got there in the end through in some ways, very typical fashion, a set piece. But I don't think many watching that game would have suggested that Arsenal got lucky there. I thought Arsenal did deserve to win the game. And you rightly mentioned that you in your introduction. Arsenal didn't deserve to lose against Liverpool, nor did they really deserve to lose against City. And they definitely didn't deserve to lose against Newcastle. And they won one, drew one, lost one. So, in some ways, you could argue, yeah, that's probably going to be the average, especially when you play against some of the bigger teams. So, Arsenal definitely feeling confident. Yes, it's 2 points behind, but they've now got to think to themselves they've got to go on a run of results to put obviously maximum pressure on anyone who obviously wants to compete with them at the top of the table. Arsenal showing, I think, that in terms of performance against Newcastle, probably their best performance. But I don't know what your thoughts were, at least attacking wise. They
Mm.
seem to be freed up a little bit. Yes, Newcastle made it difficult, but Newcastle will always make it difficult at St James's Park. Very workmanlike team, a lot of tenacity, a lot of pressure, a lot of intensity, not just on the pitch, but in the stands. A few controversial moments, which we won't probably get into for this particular stanza. But Arsenal, I think, just in the manner in which they won at a ground where they've struggled, will reinforce the belief that they've got it in them to score goals when they need them. Now, it's all very well scoring goals, perhaps against home teams. I mean, against, let's say, promoted teams like Leeds, like you saw, where they won in the end relatively comfortably at
Yeah.
5-0. But you've got to be able to get the goals when you need them, those crucial ones. That could have been a 1-1 game, and you say, look, they've at least rescued a draw. But to get the winner, and when the goal went in from Marino, but I don't know what your thoughts were, but even me as an Arsenal fan who's relatively conservative, let's be fair, I did think at 84th minute he scored. I thought, there's at least another 13, 14 minutes here in terms of injury time included. And I thought, that's enough time just to be patient, create one or two opportunities and they'll get something. They had an opening just before with the Lewis Skelly cutback, which would have been a tap in, and they've obviously got one with the goal. Incredible moments. That's what football's all about. You say it best always. This is what the Premier League's all about. Big goals, big drama, substitutes, emptying. You remember famously when Leeds, what's the net player's name? It always escapes me. The young fellow who scored the goal for the empty nets, and the whole bench is empty out because it saved you from relegation at Ellen Road. And there's that wonderful scene. You
Well,
know
that
the
was
player.
Geltard.
Geltar, that's the
Yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's fantastic scenes, isn't it? And that's what you saw at Newcastle as well. So look, Arsenal feeling good about themselves. What I will say about Liverpool is, look, they lost in the Champions League in midweek against Galatasaray. Got a few injuries. Looks like Alisson's out for a little while. I think it's overblown in the sense that have they got issues? Yes, but is there any season at you where you just go from start to finish in a nice hunky-dory way and win at a canter? Now, last year, to some extent, they did that, but they lost against Forest at Anfield early, went on an incredible run, and won the league at a relative canter. Now, you're always going to be asked some questions. There's going to be some setbacks, some adversity. They are top of the league. Let's not forget that. They've lost a game of football. They don't lose many, Ayub. Do they have some issues in terms of the performances? Yes. Do they look like they are going to concede against teams? They do, but that's not something that I don't think champions can address. There's a wealth of experience, not just in the dugout, but at the back in the midfield. They've got a few kind of transitional issues in terms of the pitch itself. I think the one main issue, you just very quickly before I give you the floor, there's a lot of talk about Florian Wirtz and how he settles into this team. You've seen this week Wayne Rooney's had some commentary on that, and fair, he tried to articulate it as best he could. I don't think it was just blasting him. Jamie Carragher spoke about it after the Champions League, and I thought they were both trying to be measured as opposed to just sticking the knife into the young fella. But what I would say is when they do play with Wirtz and McAllister together, who's also had a relatively slow start to the season, it just makes them a little diminutive in the midfield. And I do think power and aggression in the Premier League, especially in the middle of the park where games are contested, fiercely contested, I think that's an area they're just going to have to look at. That when they do play that tandem, be it defending set pieces, be it in open play, that's not a lot of height and aggression, although McAllister is happy to put tackles in. I think there was a statistic he's put one of the most number of tackles. But I think you get the point. I think that's going to be just something for them to keep an eye on in terms of the aggression and power that you need to compete. Palace cut them open at will. You've created tons of opportunities through individual mistakes, but through very good open play where Liverpool were perhaps too easy to play against. Again, just to summarize, I think Liverpool, they've got plenty in the locker. No season is just, again, plain sailing from start to finish. It's a setback. What champions do normally is they react. They've got a relatively tough game against Chelsea, who have issues of their own. But again, I think for the neutrals, if these two teams are going back and forth for the rest of the season, potentially long way to go, I think that makes it very enjoyable for the neutral. And if things like the finishes at St James's Park is anything to go by, we should be in for a few more kind of surprises and dramatic moments yet in this season.
Right, I've got a slightly different take. I think not to say that I'd be worried as a Liverpool fan, but it has been a strange sort of season. I mean, they had sort of 5 wins on the bounce. I think it was 5 wins on the bounce, but it wasn't really. You couldn't sort of say that these were dominant performances, or at least a large majority of those weren't dominant performances. And there was a great deal of fortune. Now you can turn around and say that those teams that score very late on, there's a strong mentality about that. So you've obviously got to give credit where it's due. But I just don't think that they're clicking at the moment. So you talked about it. Now it is. I mean, obviously it's a big money move, but the thing with a big money move is you do expect them to settle much quicker than perhaps other players, and I just don't think he's settled in at the moment. I think if you didn't know, you certainly wouldn't think he's a player that's over 100 million. I mean, to be honest, really, I mean, I've yet to be really impressed with him to sort of say, yeah, this is what Liverpool have bought, and this is the reason why they've bought him, and this is why they've paid this sort of money. I've always sort of said, or at least recent years, that Arsenal are the most complete side. I think in terms of overall footballing side, I think Arsenal are the best side. Now, seems a strange thing to say considering they've not won the league, but I think they tick all the boxes. I think they've got a really good, strong mentality, maybe perhaps questionable when it really matters. But in terms of throughout the whole season, they're a very physical side, they're a strong side, they've got some flair players. Uh, They've got the best defense, in my opinion, the best defense in the league. They've got some exceptional young players. So I would certainly be saying at this moment in time that they're probably more confident because I just sort of think Liverpool, there's something not quite right at the moment in terms of Liverpool. I think it's more to do with not the attitude. I think the attitude is fine, but just you've got players that perhaps aren't quite sort of at it, or perhaps trying to get used to the system, or at least Slot doesn't quite know what the best formation is, what the best style is. Whereas with Arsenal, it's completely different. He is very sure of what he wants to do. The only thing I think with Arteta is just let the handbrakes off, let them play because they are such a powerful side that I think if Arsenal on the front foot, I think are a match for anybody. I've got to be honest. I mean, I would sort of say that if it was slightly, and this is where my question mark over Arteta is, that I think what he has is good enough to win the league, and it has been good enough to win the league. And I think this is where the question is. I think maybe perhaps sometimes he wants to be too pragmatic. He wants to not take too many risks, and that's where the problem is. If he just sort of says, right, you've you've you're probably the best football inside. If just go out there, express yourselves, and I think they will be much more likely to win trophies if they had that approach. So I think at the moment Liverpool have got issues, as I said, not issues with attitude, just in terms of working out right. What is the strategy? What is the policy? What is the best formation? Because at the moment, as I said, those last minute wins, you can sort of flip it around and sort of say, well, maybe they had some good fortune against Crystal Palace. I suppose they got really what they deserved, and Van Dijk is absolutely right that they didn't deserve a point, and it would have been a travesty if they had got a point because Crystal Palace were outstanding. So I think Slot needs to sort it out ASAP because I've got a feeling that Arsenal will be buoyed by what's happened recently. I think they're capable of winning games 7, 8, 9, 10 games on the bounce. So certainly they're not going to let up. Liverpool, I think at the moment, perhaps are just going to be a little bit jittery, thinking, well, we're not quite sure. And you're right, they've got a tough game against a side which is very inconsistent at the moment. But it's going to be interesting in the next few weeks, and it's going to be very interesting to see how Liverpool react to a very disappointing performance and result.
Yeah, and what's really interesting about the two teams, I've got a great deal of respect for Liverpool. They are the champions, so you have equity and you have margin for error, at least in terms of how we hold them accountable. Yes, they've set some incredibly high standards, but this is, again, a champion team. So for me, they get a lot of respect in that respect. What I would say, though, is very interesting. What you alluded to there, in terms of the two teams, you would argue right now, Arsenal's issue, if any, isn't one of individual form or what have you. It's more about the collective mindset slash approach of the manager in terms of how they approach some of these games. Now, they've got a run of games. They've got West Ham. They've struggled against West Ham at home. Even the games they've won, they've had to recover from setbacks. But West Ham have actually won there twice in the last couple of years. They beat them 3-0 a couple of years ago when Ben Rama had a penalty save. So, yeah, there's a lot of, I guess these games are also critical for Arsenal to see, look, can they get into some sort of form? Now, Arsenal are threatening to show that. You saw that in midweek. Odegaard coming back to a little bit of form. Eze, I thought, had a very good game against Newcastle. Gyökeres's link up at Newcastle, I thought, was quite underrated. Very well in terms of linking up. Saka's back to form. They've got a wonderful back line who's pretty solid. Let's be honest, Timber, for me, best right back in the league. He's absolutely solid. Talk about extending his contract on improved terms. So it's more a collective, can Arsenal string results together? Because in a sense, the style is there. Can they be a little bit more risk friendly, let's say, and go for things and see where that takes them? Whereas Liverpool have question marks over specific individuals. Now, Salah's not had the best start to the season, so there's question marks there. Florian Wirtz, obviously a big money move. Isak trying to get him settled in. Ekitike missed a crucial game because of his daftness in the League Cup in midweek. They've obviously now got the goalkeeper missing. Konate's a liability game in, game out right now. Now, do I think he's a top player? I do. I just think he's going through an incredible rough patch right now. They've got some question marks over the fullbacks in terms of consistency. McAllister's had a slow start. So it's a case of, I mean, at Gravenberch, I think, has hit his levels in terms of his level and his standing. But these are the individual issues, in a sense, that Liverpool have to kind of address. Now, again, a champion team, a champion manager, so they get the benefit of the doubt. This is a little hiccup, but it's interesting to see, in a sense, what the issues are for both teams, because they are in some ways very contrasting, and I guess that's what makes the storylines all the more fun.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, really, that's a really good analysis, and it is going to be interesting because I think I'm not sure whether Slot's going to feel the pressure, but certainly he's got concerns, he's got questions, and Chelsea is not the sort of team that you want to play after sort of indifferent results, both in Europe and in the league. But we'll sort of wait and see. But you're right about the Arsenal. I think Arsenal is just it's a team sort of I really do. I mean, I sort of said it before, and I will say it again. They are the most complete football side in terms of squad. They have everything, and I just wish Arteta would just sort of relax a little bit and just sort of say, well, look, we're going to play to our strength. We've got really, really good players. We've got a good setup. Express yourself. Beat teams in the first sort of 30 minutes. And then maybe you can perhaps do the defensive and the more strategic play. But first 30 minutes, go out. He's just a little bit too conservative for my liking. But right, that's enough about teams that are at the top of the table. We'll talk about a team that we have talked about, or a man that we've talked about quite often, and it just seems to be not improving at all. Amorim, again, lots and lots of questions, lots of concerns. I don't know. Is it time really to just evaluate a decision to be made by Manchester United and say this is not working? But then, if that is the position they're going to take, well, where do they go? They've done that many, many times before. They've not really found the answer. So what can they do? I mean, it's a club which is just in a state of flux. It's going nowhere. I don't know. I mean, do you have an answer? If you do, let Ratcliffe know.
It's a good point. If they lose this weekend at home to Sunderland, he will be fired. There's no two ways about it. He will be fired. There was a lot of talk about how they can't be in the same position that they were in last year coming October into the new season. Well, we're in October now, and they are pretty much languishing. That Brentford defeat was a tough one to swallow, wasn't it, Ayub? In terms of, I mean, Brentford start off so well. I mean, United competed fairly well in the first half, but then Brentford, I mean, these are basic goals, Ayub. I mean, if you as a Leeds fan would be disappointed if it's just one. I mean, it's a decent ball by Henderson, but I mean, what are you doing trying to play offside there? And he runs the half of the pitch, just slashes it in. I mean, these are basic Route One goals that shouldn't be happening. You rarely see them actually in the Premier League. I know we saw one actually the next day with Watkins. I don't know if you saw his finish against Fulham, but
Yeah.
these Route One balls. I mean, this is Premier League of the highest standard, so this is pretty disappointing. Second goal as well. It's a bit of a shocker, really. The fact that he can just make a run, and goalkeeper, you could argue, should do a little bit better. But once they get into the game, Ayub, for me, just very quickly on the game, for me, the incident regarding the penalty is disappointing from a United perspective because I think the referees at a mare. This idea that Brian Mbeumo doesn't have control of the ball is a nonsense. He's never going to control the ball as that comes across. I mean, Goal scoring opportunity. You saw the player at Chelsea get sent off because the other guys
Mm,
threw on goal. Now, Brian Mbeumo is what, 7 yards out in
mm,
front of goal as it's sliding across. This idea that he wasn't in control of the ball. I mean, boy, oh boy, Barcelona wouldn't get anything in their heyday because they did everything first touch. I mean, just think about
yeah,
that, Ayub. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
what's he going to? So Brian Mbeumo would have got the player sent off if he'd taken a touch to show that he
mm,
can control a ball. I mean, this is a joke, Ayub. It got me
mm,
really angry because as soon as I saw the incident, I was thinking it's a red card. I mean, he's not meant
yeah,
to play for the ball. He's panicked. I get it. We've all been there, centre backs.
mm,
He's panicked. He's grabbed him by the arm. If you don't make a legitimate play for the ball, Ayub, it's a red card. You know that. I
mm,
know that. I know
yeah,
the rules. This idea that Mbeumo's not in control, he's never supposed to be in control of the ball. It's sliding
mm,
across. I don't understand it for the life of me. I mean, I thought I saw poor decisions. I don't know if you saw the Celtic goal that was disallowed in Champions League. Lord have mercy. I mean, some of this
mm,
the refereeing right now. So for me, that was a joke. Even if then Fernandez goes on to miss the penalty, which he did, you're playing against 10 men, you're 2-1,
mm,
you've got
yeah,
time to recover. You probably at least get a draw. But those decisions could define managers' legacies.
yeah, 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 yeah,
I know he's not helping himself, Ruben Amorim. Don't get me wrong, but those are critical decisions you can't get wrong. VAR's got to intervene, and then you see on Sunday how they intervene at St James's. I mean, it's just make it up as you go along, if you ask me. So, for me, critical mistake, but even so, United, for them to lose that, goalkeeper's at a mare for the third goal as well. He's not good enough for you. You know that.
mm,
I know that.
yeah,
Similar to the goalkeeper at Chelsea, which I often speak to your son about. I mean, it's not good enough at this level. I just think he's running out of time. He's running out of answers. He's becoming more and more, I would say, stubborn and belligerent. He's all right for a soundbite, Ayub, but soundbite
mm,
ain't got,
yeah,
as you always say, you always use the word principles don't pay the bills. Well, soundbites
yeah,
definitely don't pay the
yeah, yeah,
bills. He needs wins. That's the only currency that matters in the Premier League, Ayub. So he needs wins and he needs performances. He's not getting either. They are threatening to break out into some performances, but they look so open at the back, Ayub.
yeah, yeah,
They look likely to concede once or
yeah,
twice every single game. I don't know if
yeah,
they've got enough to score threes and fours to beat teams. So, yes, a couple of huge penalty misses this season that have cost them in games. Fulham now at Brentford. Um, but Ruben Amorim, I think Ayub is now on a very, very short leash. And that's a shame. I like him. I think you like him as well.
mm,
Uh, you mentioned in your introduction just before you go, Ayub, that they've done this many times where they've given a manager a go. It doesn't work out. They fire him, and then it's on to the next one. There's some talk about Iraola. There's some talk about Glasner because he's obviously flavor of the month right now.
mm,
Who could be the next manager? I just think if he doesn't win this week, I mean, I don't want to say if he, I mean, if it's a draw, I'm not sure where I stand on that. I probably need some
mm,
time to think. But a home game against Sunderland, albeit a Sunderland team that's doing well this season, but let's not get it twisted, Ayub.
yeah.
This is a game Manchester United have to win. If they don't win this weekend, I think they'll be looking for a new manager come the new week. I just have to believe that. So I think that the boos from the crowd, the negativity from the
Mm.
crowd will be too loud, too much to ignore. So yeah, he's on borrowed time right now. Ayub. He's very much on a. It could happen any day soon. I don't think he's got 100% approval rate with the board nor with the fans. So time will tell. But right now, there's no real consistent signs of progress. And you know this, Ayub. When you're
Mm.
manager of Manchester United Football Club, the leash that you get, if you get a season just to show some shoots of progress, you've done
Mm.
well because it's Manchester United Football Club. Now, this is his second season. I know he missed some games at the early part because obviously Eric Ten Hag was still in charge. But if he could just show some signs of progress, I think the fans would get off his back. I think the crowd are getting on his back now, Ayub. I think the media's starting to really pile on a little
Mm.
bit as well. And again, this week, home game, Sunderland looms large. In some ways, it's the game of the week, Ken, because
Mm.
you have to believe that this is a must-win game for United. How do you see it? Do you see it the same way I do, which is that failure to win on Saturday may well result in Manchester United looking for a new manager?
Right. I'm not sure whether it will be immediate because it's a tough one because I'm absolutely sure that the board will probably be thinking, look, we've been down this road so many times, and it's obviously not worked. It's just changing the manager, so they've got to really. So I don't think it'll be a knee-jerk reaction this time because and there's been moments. I think the thing with United at this moment in time, they'll have periods of nice play. but it's just mistakes. There's always a mistake waiting to happen, and I suppose you can turn around and sort of say there's a bit of bad fortune as well. I mean, in terms of just on the penalty as well. I mean, obviously you've explained the Mbeumo situation, but also in terms of the actual time it took before Fernandez actually took the penalty. It. I don't know how many minutes it was, but I mean, I remember at the time the commentator sort of making a point of this that look, this is not great because the longer it drags on. Because it should really be a case of right, a penalty decision is made, and as quickly as possible, either confirm whether it's a penalty or not a penalty. But I think it took a really, really long time. But there should be no excuse. I mean, Fernandez is a professional, a top quality professional. And I don't know whether that had an impact, the time it took before he actually took the penalty. But at the moment, it just, I don't know. I mean, I occasionally I see sort of glimpses of a decent spell of play, but really you can't win games and you with just decent spells. You've got to obviously have a consistency. You did use the word consistency, and they've got to be consistent throughout the 90 minutes or 95, 96, 100 minutes. But I don't know what the solution is. I think genuinely this is one where it's almost impossible to identify how you resolve this, what you do, because they've kept on changing manager. That's not worked. They've obviously tried to sort of get rid of some players, bring in new players. That's not worked. So it's a difficult one. Uh, I think they've just got to back him if they think this guy is the right manager. But the problem I see with Amorim is he's stubborn. I've never ever been a fan of managers who just have a system. Right, great, have a system, but you've got to be flexible. You've got to be adaptable. And this guy just doesn't seem. I think there's I want to say there's an arrogance, but he's obviously he thinks he has a system which is going to be effective, and he just sort of won't deviate from that. Ultimately, it may cost him, but I just don't think at the moment they'll be trigger happy. I think they've been down that road too many times. I've just got a feeling that if it continues for maybe another month, then maybe perhaps they will have no alternative. But at the moment, it's but there's no question. Tomorrow's game is absolutely crucial. And it is a game that they should win. There is no question about it. You've talked about obviously Sunderland doing okay, but it's a game they must win.
Yeah, I mean, the only point I would, I guess, slightly disagree with you. It's not a case of trying to convince you, but tomorrow's game is a referendum, though, isn't it, Ayub? I mean, if this was where they'd been on a good run of form and then have a setback tomorrow, fine. I mean, that happens to anyone. Arsenal could drop points against West Ham. I mean, this is the Premier League we're talking about. But because of the results he's been on in terms of the form, the fact that ultimately you are who you are, you've in terms of what the table represents. Now, normally you would say this early on, there can be a few surprises here and there, but this has been going on now for the best part of a couple of years in terms of this demise and this kind of languishing in the second half of the table. So tomorrow does feel somewhat as a referendum. You spoke about his stubbornness. Gary Neville alluded to it in his podcast or in his kind of post Sunday night show that he does with the commentator, where he talked about how when he saw Mason Mount at wing back, that's when he was like, this man, I'm worried now because this man is just like you said, square peg, round holes, and all of that. So yeah, I mean that's you are absolutely right. A good manager goes in and says, I have a preferred system, but either I'm going to build in terms of bringing in players to fit that personnel, to fit that system, or I'm going to adapt to the personnel that I have. Now, Manchester United have never been a 3-4-3 football club. Now, that doesn't mean they can't be. I don't agree with, I don't subscribe to that. I think as years pass, I mean, why should you just stick to one particular system?
Yeah.
But you're at Old Trafford, you're going to play half your games there. The crowd's a big part of that. I've grown up on attacking football, aggressive football, a kind of big mentality type football where they always feel like they'll score. When I saw Liverpool scoring all these late goals, I turned to my son and said, "This is what the '90s and the 2000s were like under Fergie. They would always score."
But
So
there was Fergie time though. The extra few minutes.
there was a little bit
always
of
helped.
there was a little bit of Fergie time, but yeah, I mean you're absolutely right. Sunderland, just segueing across at you very quickly, brings us on to obviously Sunderland. Probably surprise package of the season. I've got to give you some kudos because when we first spoke about Sunderland, especially their manager last year, you were real cock a hoop about the manager himself, and they've obviously done some good business this. Summer, brought in some experienced professionals. They are the story of the season so far. Let there be no mistake. Flying high right now in the table. You expect that to dissipate somewhat as the season progresses. You would have to think because ultimately you find your level, but they are giving themselves a real
Mm.
good chance, aren't they? Your football club as well are scrapping in there. A few difficult moments where draws could have been turned into victories, but I guess you can't be too upset with also Leeds is showing so far as well. Where do you see how does it stand? Firstly, on Sunderland, speak to us about the manager, but also then about your own football club, where you're fighting, you're scrapping, you're competing, and
Mm.
ultimately, as a fan of a promoted club, surely that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we all three promoted sides have done reasonably well, with obviously Sunderland being exceptional. Now, I mean, if we hadn't conceded late against uh, Bournemouth, and if we hadn't conceded late against Fulham, we'd have 11 points, so we'd be up there as well. I mean, it's been fantastic. I really, from Falk, that point of view, he's done an exceptional job with, I would sort of say, not the best of squads.
Very
Talking about
mag,
our,
very
yeah.
mag, very magnanimous of you. You.
But it's true, though. I mean, as they said, I will always give credit where it's due, and I have to give him credit. But there is a caveat to that, because for all teams that score late, there's a certain strength of mentality that we always talk about. And conversely, there's the other thing as well. If you concede late, there is something that maybe perhaps is questionable about the mentality. Now, we've done that twice. The against Bournemouth was ridiculous. And I will criticise Fart because his substitutions were quite poor, because we've got a guy who's 6'4", a defender. Now, once we were 2-1 up, really he should have been sort of bringing a defender on, because set pieces are always going to be a dangerous tool for an opposition. And exactly what happened. It was a really poor goal as well. If you saw the goal,
Yeah.
it was shocking. It was disgraceful. It's the sort of goal that really, the one area that sides should be equipped to deal with is set pieces. Now, it doesn't mean that obviously you're not going to be able to concede a goal, but it's something that you can control. If it's open play, you've obviously got teams that have got flair, skill, pace, but a set piece, you've got time to make sure that you're doing all the basics right. This was a fundamental flaw. I mean, we sort of, the first header, fair enough, you can sort of be outdone, but there was acres of space, two players, and it was. I mean, I sort of saw the score on Twitter, but when I saw the goals, I was absolutely livid. I was absolutely livid.
I
The
was,
reason for it is,
sorry,
yeah, go on.
I was just, sorry, I was smiling throughout that whole segment because you call the second goal a disgrace. I mean, the first one,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Well,
that's
now that yeah, yeah,
that's a shocker. You come on,
yeah,
what's
yeah.
going on?
I mean, yeah, yeah. I mean, I just, now that you remind me of the first goal as well. I mean, it's just, what's the point of lying down? I mean, I mean it's just. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they need, I don't know, some sort of like the set piece coach. Maybe they need some sort of technical sort of somebody who obviously does the mathematics, because that was awful. I mean, Aronson was lying down. Now he's about 4'6". Get some, and then they all jumped up. And it was, yeah. I mean, again, it was that's ridiculous, because
Yes.
even me, that I've never played at a high standard, but I would be thinking, right, where that free kick is, there is no way he's going to be able to sort of dink it over the wall. So therefore, what's the point of actually sort of jumping up? That you have to use common sense, and that was awful. So the two goals that we conceded were ridiculous. I mean, we played well. We have played well. Apart from the Arsenal result, we've been competitive. Tomorrow is a really tough game. We're playing Spurs, who a little bit up and down, but still they've got a plethora of quality. But it's been impressive. I've been very impressed with Sunderland. I think Sunderland, and I said it at the time as well, the team, when they played Sheffield United in the playoff final, I did not want Sunderland to go up, exactly for this reason, because they've got a manager who I knew would attract better players than big Chris Wilder, who's back again at Sheffield United. So that was my fear, and it's been borne out, because that's exactly what's happened. I mean, Xhaka, there is absolutely no way Xhaka signs for Sunderland if they've got a lesser manager. This manager does attract better players. He got, I think, is it Lefay, who would have never have gone to the championship, uh, but he went to the championship because of this manager. So Sunderland are doing fantastic well. In fact, all three teams are doing well. I think Sunderland, they're not going to maintain it. They're not going to be in the top half, but they're going to be comfortable in the Premier League. I'm still sort of, I think we've battled hard, but I just don't know. It's the last sort of conceding late does sort of reflect that there's some sort of weakness mentality when it comes to sort of seeing out games. And in the Premier League, you've got to be on it for from minute one to the last whistle. You can't for 1 minute or 1 second have a moment where you just sort of switch off because the Premier League is merciless, it's ruthless, and we found out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing with Sunderland, Ayub, is they are 7 points clear of the drop. Now, that's two wins and a draw. Now, in
Mm.
this league, if you look at the history in terms of the maths over the last couple of years, you've not needed a great deal of points to stay up, have you? Because, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
we've had back-to-back seasons of promoted clubs getting um, uh, relegated. But you've got other clubs who are struggling. I mean, I've got to give Brentford some credit. They've picked up some wins. They were one of my bets to go down. Credit to Keith Andrews.
Mm.
He's got them playing. He's got them winning games. I still think they'll be kind of thereabouts in those knockings. But you look at Wolves denied their first win away
Mm.
at Spurs, where they normally do well. Obviously, with a goal from Palhinha last minute. But Sunderland are 7 points clear. Now
Yeah.
that's already you feel like, oh, they'll be feeling really good about themselves. And you are right. They will slide at some point. You just have to believe that
Mm.
will. It's the law of averages to some extent. But they'll be thinking, look, if we can just keep up this form whilst teams are still finding out about us in terms of scouting us, what's going on, what do they do well? I mean, you know this. I mean, if Sunderland were getting pasted every week, threes and fours and fives, the level of scrutiny, even at the highest level, will nowhere near be as much as there will be now, where
Mm.
you're thinking,
Yeah.
what are they doing right? Where are some of their threats? I mean, the poorest teams, just good teams, just feel like Rocco. Play your stuff.
Mm.
You'll wipe the floor with them. So I think Sunderland, whilst teams are still trying to get a grip on, like I said, their strengths, their weaknesses, where to perhaps attack them, they're doing okay defensively. Obviously, got picked up a huge win at Forest. You just wonder how, if they can just keep up some momentum pre-Christmas, Ayub, which is when perhaps injuries start to bite a little bit and the squad
Mm.
really comes into the fore in the second half of the season. They might be, I'm not going to say home and hosed, but they may have done a lot of the early sledding, so to speak, in the first half of the season. Fantastic start,
Mm.
way above and beyond what they thought could be possible. Their fans must be absolutely cock a hoop. And this is the moment that they were kind of fighting for, wasn't it? Away games,
Yeah.
Old Trafford.
Mm.
Funnily enough, it's the home manager under the most amount of pressure. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
For Sunderland, it's kind of a free hit to some extent. To some extent, so yeah, it'll be a fantastic game. I'll probably be watching. Let's see how it all goes. But incredible story of the season. Manager deserves a huge amount of credit. But again, just for, comment for your club, scrapping. I think the manager's showing a little bit of flexibility in terms of his previous experiences in the Premier League,
Mm.
and Leeds are also well suited right now. You say Spurs are a tough game, are you? I mean, it is. Spurs are a better team than Leeds, so let's not get it twisted. But it's not a game that you'd say, let's just write it off and move on. No, no, no. I think Leeds will think, compete. Let's try and play upon some of that weakness. Spurs played in midweek. Can we get some tired legs? So let's see how it goes. But a win for Leeds would really catapult you up the league.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be happy enough with a draw because that sort of sort of before the international break again, it's a nice sort of sequence of results. 3 games unbeaten. And it's just every point is absolutely vital. I mean, this is such a tough league. That's why really dropping points is something that really is it's a hammer blow because you know how difficult it is, especially if you're trying to stay in this league, that every point is so important. So the last thing you want to do is drop points, especially when you've been dominant, which is what we were.
Yeah.
But it's all good. It's enjoyable so far
Yeah.
in terms of the effort and the application from Leeds. So I'm happy at the moment. But as a Leeds fan, you're never too. You're only a game away from being miserable again.
Absolutely. Just one quick question before we finish here for yourself. Uh, do you think Enzo Maresca is fighting for his job at Chelsea? I do think he's under a lot of pressure. But where do you stand? You've obviously spoken to your son as well. Uh, do you think this for him as well, in terms of this Liverpool game, looms large? You know what the ownership's like. Do you think he's under
Mm.
pressure, or do you think he'll get enough time to see this through and get Chelsea back amongst the big boys?
Well, I think he should be under pressure. I mean, the amount of money that they've spent, the amount of quality that they've brought back. Well, I suppose you can argue whether it's top quality that they've brought in, but the money that they've spent, I think he is under pressure, and he should be under pressure because it's again, it's a club which is erratic. There is no consistency, and I think we live in an age where sort of boards are trigger happy and owners are trigger happy. The expectation at Chelsea is very high. And so it should be. Again, if you're investing the amount of money that Chelsea have, you have to expect results. And I think this manager is far too inconsistent. And this is the thing: there is no guarantee. I mean, they might sort of turn up and sort of beat Arsenal 3-0. Next week they'll get beat by, I don't know, Sunderland. That's the thing. This is where if that is happening, I think there has to be question marks over a coach. And I think this is with Maresca. That's the thing. You're never quite sure how they're going to perform. And really for the investment they've made, that's not good enough. And I think if that's the case, then he should be under pressure. And rightly so.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just because he's at Chelsea Football Club. You just don't get as much of a leash as you would. They fired Chelsea legends when under pressure. So I don't see that they've got the same level of equity and kind of loyalty towards Enzo Maresca. I just think it's been a bit of a tricky one for him. Club World Cup champions and all the rest of it. Palmer's now picking up injuries left and right, whether or not that's had some impact in terms of the summer excursions. Question marks, I would say, excursions, I should say. So let's see. I mean, I agree with you. I think they've lost a couple on the bounce, and then you're playing the champions. I mean, if you think the champions have got issues, Chelsea definitely have issues. So
Yeah.
let's see. They've got a red card. Can't stop picking up red cards as well. I think in some ways, some might argue it's a good get right game for Liverpool, so to speak, because it'll be a game of football. And I think that might just suit Liverpool in terms of being a bit more free flowing and a bit more certain about themselves. So, yeah, fantastic game. Should be a wonderful game, but probably in some weird kind of way, both managers under a little bit of pressure for different reasons, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't think Arsenal's got anything to worry about. Let me not get it. But under pressure in terms of him trying to find a few solutions in terms of in-game adjustments, Maresca, he'll take an ugly win. So let's see how it goes. Big weekend of football. Hopefully Arsenal can get 3 points tomorrow against West Ham and then obviously put their feet up and watch the games to come for the weekend.
Right. Excellent. Right, that's our take on what's happened and what's going to happen over the weekend. If you'd like to put a comment in, smash a like. I've not said that for a little while. It does help. So until the next time, enjoy the weekend. If you're in the Northwest, it's going to be absolutely miserable. If you're in the Middle East, it's going to be scorching. So enjoy yourself, always. As always, good to speak to you. And until the next time, take care. Ta-ta for now.